Hey there, all you friends, true believers, and newcomers alike, and welcome to another Superfly Comics Guy haul video. As you saw in the title, I'm calling this my June haul, but really, this is more like all the books I've picked up since the start of 2025. It really has been that long. I have one absolute today to start off with, and then we'll do the omnibuses in ascending order of my personal excitement for them. As always, though, I like to mention that I'm not going to be doing reviews of these books in this video. My haul videos are usually more of a first impressions, just first look type of thing. Unwrap them, tell you about the covers if I know about them, cover the price, stretch them out, check out the build quality, and we'll do just a quick flip through. But if you want in-depth reviews of any of these books, then you're going to want to subscribe to the channel, and I will put out reviews of these books once I'm able to get to them and read them. So with that out of the way, I'm not going to waste any more of your time. Let's just jump right in with our first book. Okay, up first, one of the most unique, trippy, weird Batman stories out there. And it's an absolute I've been wanting to get a hold of for some time. Absolute Batman Arkham Asylum by none other than Grant Morrison and Dave McKean. Let's dive in. So there we are, everybody. Absolute Batman Arkham Asylum. We're looking at the slipcase here. I apologize for all the glare that's going on. This is a very, very reflective slipcase, but man, I don't think the camera is doing it justice here, but this is quite a sight to behold in person here. I don't believe there are any variant covers for the Absolute edition of this story, but this cover does a good job of kind of letting you know what kind of story this is. This isn't like your typical heroic image of Batman on the cover here. He looks quite vulnerable and, I don't know, very pensive, I suppose. And then you got this weird light bulb with like a brain in it. Appropriately trippy for a Grant Morrison book. Whoop. We have the Absolute certificate that just fell out there. There's the spine for you. And the back. Once again, that weird light bulb. So this is an Absolute edition, which means it comes in this slip case here. Let's take it out. Whoa. Look at that. Let me get the slip case out of the way. Wow. Look at that. I forgot to mention this Absolute edition has a cover price of $100 US and $131 Canadian. It is basically DC's cream of the crop format, taller than an omnibus, usually reserved for very special stories. And I would describe Arkham Asylum as one. Wow, look at that. The spine of the book looks like pages. Wow, again, camera's not doing this justice in my opinion. You kind of have to see it to believe it. Let me get it stretched and we'll kind of inspect the build quality. All right, as I expected, first stretch is looking good. Binding is looking good. I do expect really good build quality out of these Absolute editions because, hey, you're paying for it. Page quality is nice and thick. Let me quickly flip over so we can take a look at the board design one more time. Wow, that is just stunning. So some of you might be wondering, hey, don't you already own the deluxe edition of this book? Yes, I do. I have done a review of this story, so I'm not gonna go over the plot and everything in depth here. If you're wondering why I double dip, again, I'm primarily an omnibus and deluxe edition collector, but for those few stories that like for whatever reason grip me or hit me in a particular way or mean something to me, I like to get them in the Absolute edition or whatever premium format equivalent there is. So yeah, written by Grant Morrison, illustrated by Dave McKean. Man, once I start flipping here, yeah, you'll see. This is Very, very standout artwork here. Very creepy and so well suited to this absolute format. This story came out in 1989, I believe, just riding on the high of that first Tim Burton Batman movie. And it's one of the books that really propelled Grant Morrison's career. I believe it was their editor who, at the time, shortly after this book's release, who called up Grant and just told him, "You are going to be very, very rich," because this book was just selling like hotcakes when it came out. But the idea here is that, well, here's how I like to think about this story. This isn't your typical Batman, as I alluded to on the cover. This is a very different take. Batman is barely like drawn close up. He's always drawn as this like silhouetted figure by Dave McKean. A very, very creepy take on Joker. The idea here is that I like to interpret this as this is like Batman's dream or nightmare. This is kind of the place that this story is taking place in. It's taking place in this sort of weird nightmare realm because it opens up with Batman gets a call from, I believe, Commissioner Gordon, who has received word that Arkham Asylum, the home to the criminally insane of Gotham, there's been a riot. All the prisoners have broken out. Joker is going to start executing people if Batman doesn't show up. And it can only be Batman. Batman has to come by himself. So Batman has to show up and kind of figure out what's going on. But again, don't expect some sort of swashbuckling Batman saves the day, rah-rah, heroic story here. It's very psychological. Again, it's very creepy. And my God, this artwork, holy crap. Again, I've read this story before. I have it in deluxe edition, but seeing it up close like this in absolute format, my God, is it something special. And you can thank Dave McKean for that artwork, who originally didn't even want to do this story. He hates all that superhero BS. Heavy edits had to be made to the original plot of this story because Dave McKean just didn't want to draw certain things. Like, he was barely convinced to draw Batman, but originally Robin was in this story, and Dave McKean was like, "No, I'm not drawing that bullshit. I'm not drawing a kid. I'll draw Batman, fine, but I'm not drawing Robin." So again, it's just a little bit of fun trivia. I think Brian Bolland was originally supposed to be that's who Grant wanted to be the artist on this book, but I don't know. Would it have worked as well? Would it be as memorable? Probably not. I just love so many of the unique touches to this book, like the speech bubbles, or not really bubbles, like Joker's are very unique. He's the only character who doesn't have an actual bubble around his speech. It's completely frameless. It's all in this chaotic red. Batman's is always in this black here. Again, very, very unique story. Been wanting to get the Absolute for some time. Very glad it was reprinted, and that's why I picked it up. And one other thing I want to note about the Absolute Edition is you get a lot of extras, but I believe just like the Deluxe Edition that I reviewed, you also get the full original script by Grant Morrison in this Absolute Edition, again, on quite thick paper here. So it's looking good. Okay, moving on to the first of the omnibuses, we have a big gap filler in Ol' Hornhead's history and the book, if I'm not mistaken, that finished #1 in last year's Most Wanted New Marvel Omnibus poll. Daredevil by Ann Nocenti and John Romita Jr., Volume 1. Let's go. All right, there it is. Daredevil by Ann Nocenti and John Romita Jr. Omnibus Volume 1. Here we have, I believe that's the standard cover here by John Romita Jr. Very, very iconic and kind of playful cover featuring Daredevil making out with Typhoid Mary here, who's preparing a knife behind his back. Kind of gives you an idea of the manipulative nature of her character. Yeah, it's Typhoid Mary does make her first appearance here. There's the spine. Oh, wait. I do believe there's also a variant cover for this book, but I can't remember what it looks like. I don't know. I'll toss it up there just in case you're wondering what that looks like. But whatever it was, I think I preferred this one. So once again, there is the spine. And there is the back. Got our Marvel cover gallery, beginning one of the all-time great eras of Daredevil. And also following one of the all-time great eras of Daredevil. This comes right after the Frank Miller material. What does this collect? Daredevil 234 to 266, and Punisher number 10, written by Nocenti with Mark Grunwald and a whole bunch of other people. Cover price of $100 US, $125 Canadian. Let's get this flipped over. Take a look under the dust jacket here. Woohoo, my spidey senses are tingling and they're telling me we're getting a wraparound cover. Look at that. Let me get this stretched and we'll take a look at that a little closer. And there we go. Build quality honestly seems pretty sturdy from what I could tell. I checked and this is actually printed at the Donnelly printer in China. The page quality seems pretty average for a Marvel Omnibus, but not super thin. I didn't really notice too many instances of bleed through from what I could tell. So hopefully this will be one of the good ones. You have page numbers here, which I love to see. And man, as I was flipping through here, I was really impressed by just the colors. They really, really pop in this book. I don't know if that's just me. It has been a while since I've looked at this sort of more older Daredevil material. But man, I'm really loving the aesthetic of this book. Page numbers, like I said, and if I'm not mistaken, a table of contents. That is what we like to see. So, oh yeah, and I was going to show you, of course, the wraparound cover here. Daredevil is kicking old Frank Castle right in the gonads. Very nice. I like it. Pretty simple white background, but the red and blue pops quite well. So as I said, this is quite a big gap filler for Daredevil books. This follows the Frank Miller era, and it covers the Nocenti portion, when Nocenti was the writer of Daredevil. Now, I don't really know too much about this material. I know that when it was coming out, it was, I guess, a little bit controversial because people didn't know how to feel about it. Frank Miller introduced, very famously, a lot of darkness into the pages of Daredevil's writing. And Nocenti, I think, still continued a little bit of that, but it was kind of goofy, I guess. But again, I can't speak too much for that. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on something I don't know much about. That's just silly. But it's notable for, well, John Romita Jr. eventually joins on artwork later on. But they introduce the character of Typhoid Mary, which is quite a big or notable character in Daredevil lore. So it'll be interesting for me to see that character's origin, because I read the Frank Miller books and then I skipped directly to the Bendis era. So when Typhoid Mary appeared in that book, it was supposed to be like a huge moment, like, oh my god, she's back, but I kind of had no clue who she was, so I'm like, what's going on? Why is everything on fire? But yeah, no, it'll definitely be interesting to kind of fill in that knowledge gap and learn more. I'm a fan of Daredevil. He's my third favorite superhero. So I had to pick this up. But it's on the bottom of my, I guess, personal excitement list, just because I don't know too much about this specific era. But speaking of gap fillers, our next book continues the Silver Age saga of one spectacular spider hero. The Amazing Spider-Man Omnibus Volume 6. Let's dive into this. There we are, my friends. Here's the standard cover to this omnibus by Keith Pollard, who actually does both the standard cover and the direct market cover, I believe. Both covers for this omnibus honestly look really amazing, no pun intended. If I was able to, I would have preferred to get the direct market cover, but I just wasn't able to get my hands on it in time. But this is still quite cool. It's got that classic sort of dynamic Spider-Man hopping at you out of the page with all the poses in the background. Here's the spine. Pretty typical for a modern Silver Age Marvel omnibus with the font there, tiny lettering, little image there, your volume number, your creators, as expected. And then we have the Marvel cover gallery, which I always love to see. It's a nice touch. And then cover price is $100 US, $125 Canadian. It collects the Amazing Spider-Man 181 to 205 and Annual 12 and 13. It also collects the Spectacular Spider-Man Annual number 1 and What If number 1, 7 to 8, and 19. Let's have a look at what we get under this dust jacket. If I can slide it off there. There we go. Okay, so nothing too surprising. You got your Amazing Spider-Man logo there with the omnibus text. You got your spine there, pretty similar to the dust jacket, and you have the Spider-Man logo on the back. So pretty similar to Omnibus Volume 5, for instance, if you've seen my review of that. So now I will stretch this book out and be right back. Alright, well, I complimented the last book for its build quality, but I don't think this one will receive the same level of praise. The binding looks okay, but this book is printed at the IMAK printer in Turkey. So that's what you get with that. You can probably immediately see there on camera. Very thin pages, decent amount of bleed through. Whatever, I'm kind of just expecting that from the iMac printer at this point. iMac, it should technically be iMac, whatever. I go between the two. But page numbers, and if I flip to the beginning table of contents, are nice to see. So at least there's that. So as you might imagine, this follows the Amazing Spider-Man Omnibus Volume 5. This will close out the late 70s era of Amazing Spider-Man. It kind of sort of bridges the gap between Amazing Spider-Man Omnibus Volume 5 and the Spider-Man by Roger Stern Omnibus, but not really. There's still some leftover issues that still need to be covered. I don't know, Marvel did kind of a weird thing with the mapping of this book, and I believe it's it's on the smaller side for an Amazing Spider-Man Silver Age Omnibus. So take from that what you will. I don't know too much about this era of Spider-Man. Well, Keith Pollard obviously comes in on art, but I don't know too much about his artwork or just work in general. But you do get still some notable stories in here. What I'm most excited by is the first appearance of Black Cat, if I'm not mistaken. That's a character I definitely love. So I'm interested to see what becomes of that. Rocket Racer apparently shows up. But we're going to get some Doc Ock stories, some Fly stories, I believe, Mysterio, Kingpin. I think Peter's graduation is included in this omnibus, so we're going to get to see him graduating from high school, I'm pretty sure. Or is it? No, it's college. I'm getting my Amazing Spider-Man timeline mixed up. Oh no, you guys are going to think I'm a poser. Spider-Man's your favorite character and you can't even get your chronology right? Embarrassing. I should really abandon this hobby, shouldn't I? But no, the artwork looks fantastic in here. It's again, it pops just as much as the art in the Daredevil book did as well. Am I going to pick up Amazing Spider-Man Omnibus Volume 7 once it eventually gets announced and released? I don't know. Do I really feel like I need those stories between this and the Roger Stern Omnibus? Probably not, but I guess time will tell once we get an announcement for Amazing Spider-Man Omnibus Volume 7, whenever that may be. Okay, time for another DC book, and what is widely regarded as one of Wonder Woman's best runs, Wonder Woman by Greg Rucka, now collected in omnibus format. Let's dive in. And there we are. There is the dust jacket to this omnibus. I don't believe there are any variant covers for this omnibus. This cover is actually different from the one that was originally revealed when this book was solicited, but I quite like it. It's quite an interesting art style. I'm not sure who the artist on this is. But the spine, looking very colorful there. And the back. Careful where you point your eyes. Wonder Woman's looking. This has a cover price of $125 US, $163 Canadian, and it collects Action Comics 829, Adventures of Superman 642, Blackest Night Wonder Woman 1-3, Superman 219, The Flash 219, and Wonder Woman 195 to 226, and Wonder Woman the Hikatea. Let's dive under here so we can see what the board design looks like. Whoa, whoa, wait a minute. That kind of looks like the animated series style of Wonder Woman, that art style. Like that, the old Justice League show, the animated series universe. Wow, I really like that artwork. Hold on, let's look at the spine. Okay, same thing. And then the back. Oh man, what the heck is going on there? She's stepping on Batman. I don't know how I feel about That's a very strange image. Okay, I definitely like the front more than the back. All right, let me stretch this and we'll take a bit of a closer look. And there we are. It's nice looking binding there. Page quality seems quite good. And I was even seeing some occasional page numbers and get this. Come on, I said, get this, a table of contents. Perfect. What more could you want? The gutter loss seems like it could be having a little bit of an impact, but that'll remain to be seen once I have time to read this book. But man, when I first started this channel, Marvel was the one that was putting out really good quality omnibuses. They were known for it. Like, even if you go back to my first video, Ultimate Spider-Man Omnibus Volume 1, I talked about that Marvel quality. And over time, ever since then, Marvel's books have been, or their quality anyway, their build quality is overall, on average, been going down, in my opinion. But DC really seems to have picked up the slack. DC was the one kind of falling behind back then, but now I would argue that DC is putting out much better quality books, and their collected editions department seems to really have a good grasp on things. They're putting out the books people have been asking for, the books people want. It's just feels like it's just interesting to see that pendulum swing back the other way. But hey, competition in the industry is good. It encourages everybody else to just do better. But anyway, as I'm flipping through here, I don't know too much about this story. I believe this covers like the early to mid 2000s era of Wonder Woman. She's so badass. And this is known as one of Wonder Woman's best runs, so I was curious to check it out. Again, if you've seen, you've probably heard me talk about this on the channel before, But my kind of philosophy or methodology for collecting is my top 3 favorite characters are Spider-Man, Batman, and Daredevil. So most of my collection is those characters. But then for the other characters that I just have a mild interest in or I want to check out, then I'll only focus on picking up what is considered to be their best material or like their best run. And this appears to be that for Wonder Woman. So it's the same logic for why I picked up Green Lantern by Jeff Johns, which I still need to read. Or why I picked up Captain America by Ed Brubaker. You know, I don't really have a huge interest in those characters, but if the run is that good, I want to read it, you know? Otherwise, like, dear God, I don't have the shelf space for that many omnibuses. Gotta pick your battles, pick and choose what you want to store on your shelf. But this artwork is looking fantastic. It's this, I don't know who this specific artist is, but it's reminding me of that sort of animated series style at times. And that's just a vibe. So that's an easy way to win me over, is just remind me of the animated series, whether it's Batman or Justice League or whatever. So this looks like a good time. For the penultimate entry, we have, as of the recording of this video, the most modern Daredevil omnibus. Daredevil by Chip Zdarsky, Omnibus Volume 2. Here we go. And there we go. There is the standard cover to the Daredevil by Chip Zdarsky Omnibus Volume 2. It'll go very well with the standard cover for Volume 1, because Volume 1 was this same pose, but the regular Daredevil. But this cover is a different character wearing the Daredevil mask, and I'm sure you guys can probably guess who that is, but just in case you can't, I'll try not to spoil it. I mean, I haven't even read this material, and I probably know who that is. I mean, no, I definitely know who that is. Let's not beat around the bush here. But there is also a direct market cover for this book. I didn't really like it. It felt kind of weird, a weird choice for a cover. Like, it just, why would you put like a character design type of image as a direct market cover? I don't know. Didn't really feel like it worked for me, so I picked up this. And again, it just goes better with Volume 1 as a whole set like that. Here is the spine and the back. Cover price of $100 US, $125 Canadian. This collects the Daredevil 2019 series, 31 through 36. Daredevil Woman Without Fear, 1 through 3. Devil's Reign, 1 through 6. Devil's Reign Omega #1, and Daredevil the 2022 series, 1 through 14. So it did go through a bit of a renumbering. Let's flip this around. Take a look at the board design. And there we are. Very, very cool. Image of Daredevil there in his sort of new outfit that he's wearing during this period of time, with like the long jacket and the beard, of course, and sometimes he has a hood too. Ooh, but it is a wraparound cover. Very nice. Featuring the 2 Daredevils. Let's stretch this out and take a better look. Okay, so not really much of an eye there after a first stretch, and I don't really know what it is about this book. Maybe it's this specific copy, but it feels kind of flimsy. I've never really felt an omnibus quite like this before. It feels loose, for lack of a better term. Pages are very, very thin. Again, this is an iMac or iMac book. That's where it was printed, so yeah, it doesn't seem like the best quality. I'm not noticing too much bleed through though. So, oh man, look at that artwork though. Holy crap, Marco Cacchetto. So cool. Yeah, I think the darker colors seem to be helping. Not noticing too much bleed through, but for whatever reason, when I was flipping through the book and stretching it, it just felt very flimsy. I don't really know how to describe that better. Let's have a look at the wraparound cover. Very nice, very nice. So, as I said, this is the most modern Daredevil Omnibus as of right now, as of the recording of this video. I just finished reading Charles Soule's Daredevil run, so if you want to check out the review of that. This series comes right after that. I already have Daredevil by Zdarsky Volume 1, so I can jump into that basically whenever I want, because now I have the full Daredevil by Chip Zdarsky run in omnibus format, and man, I've heard nothing but stellar things about this run. People praising it to high heaven. One of the best, if not the best, Daredevil run ever written, and again, I know people say Daredevil is written really well all the time, but this amount of praise is something noteworthy for sure. It's just kind of cool seeing him with the beard too. Yeah, a bit of a funny story about this omnibus. If you watched my unboxing comparison video that I did recently, or like a month ago or something like that, I was basically comparing Amazon packaging versus BD Cosmos packaging. You may have noticed in that video that I thought I had ordered Daredevil by Chip Zdarsky Omnibus Volume 2, but actually, my dumbass ordered another copy of Daredevil by Chip Zdarsky Omnibus Volume 1, because the direct market cover of Volume 1 looked very similar to the standard cover of Volume 2. So, you know, I had a bit of a misclick moment and ordered the wrong book. But it was okay. I got it all sorted out with BD Cosmos. They were very easy to and very helpful to help me sort that out. And long story short, now I have the proper book in my hands, so I'm definitely looking forward to checking out this run when I have some time, and always love to see Spidey in there. But yeah, there we go. Ended on a nice spread page here. Alright guys, the final book. I know I'm not the easiest guy to listen to, but if you've stuck around this whole time, you know, I appreciate you as always. The final book is Web of Spider-Man Omnibus Volume 1. And incidentally, my most anticipated book in this haul. So let's crack it open. Is that not a stunner of a cover? This is one of the direct market covers for this book. Yes, you heard me right, one of. And by golly, it is just one of the most iconic Spider-Man covers ever drawn, and also one of the most iconic Spider-Man stories ever put to paper. But we'll get to that. There's also another direct market cover, and there's also the standard cover by, off the top of my head, Charles Vess, maybe? It could be that I have that wrong. Please correct me if so. But there's no way I wasn't going for this. This is such a cool cover. Had to have it. And the spine. And the back. Spidey's web gets ever more tangled. That's for sure. Cover gallery, of course, and then collecting Web of Spider-Man 1 through 34 and Annual 1 through 3. Amazing Spider-Man 268 and 293 to 295. And Peter Parker, The Spectacular Spider-Man 131 to 133. Cover price of $125 US and $156.25 Canadian. Let's dive under the dust jacket of this book. Oh, wow. Wow, am I glad we saved this for last. Whoa. Well, clearly just a recoloring of that direct market dust jacket we were just looking at, but holy crap, that just looks so badass. Man, all right. The spine, there's Spidey in his classic red and blues. And the back here. Oh, it's looking pretty interesting. Spider-Man in the black suit, but at this time it's the cloth version of the black suit. It's not actually the symbiote alien costume. But anyway, let's give it a stretch. Take a look. Okay, that's the stretch done. Binding looks okay. That eye is looking pretty big, so I'll give it props for that. But again, the page quality is insanely thin. Once again, I don't know if you can see on camera, but there's definitely a visible amount of bleed through there. Page numbers are nice to see. Do we get a page? A table of contents in this book? Yeah, we do. Okay, so that's good. I'll give them props for that. But again, the low quality pages from that iMac printer are they're just not it. Yeah, it's disappointing. But you know what? Let's cheer ourselves up and look at that image on the board one more time. Oh, that's better. That'll invoke the warm and fuzzies. Very nice. So, Web of Spider-Man. What the heck is that, you may ask? Well, this is, I don't know how many spin-off titles Spider-Man would have had by this point, what this would be. But that's exactly what it is. It's a spin-off title in addition, running alongside the main Amazing Spider-Man run. So there had been several spin-off titles by this point. The Amazing Spider-Man, of course, was the main title, but then you had Spectacular Spider-Man. There was Marvel Team Up. There was this book, Web of Spider-Man. There was Adjectiveless Spider-Man. There was lots of Spider-Man spin-off titles. I don't really know what the theme of Web of Spider-Man would be, but quite frankly, I don't really care about the Web of Spider-Man series necessarily. I got this omnibus just because I wanted Kraven's Last Hunt collected in an omnibus, which is the story from that this cover is from. It's known as one of Spider-Man's best stories. It's known as one of his darkest stories. It's known as probably the best Kraven the Hunter story. And I've read it before in trade paperback format, but come on. I'm an omnibus guy. Gotta have the omnibus, so I was super stoked to have that as part of the collection. Probably won't be collecting any further volumes of Web of Spider-Man if they release them. I really just wanted the kind of Kraven's Last Hunt gap filler in here. But the art looks pretty good in here too. So we have Spider-Man in his red and blues, which makes sense because at the beginning of Web of Spider-Man #1, that's when he actually gets rid of the alien costume, the symbiote suit. But eventually he goes back to that same color scheme, but it's a cloth version. If I'm not mistaken, I think is it the Black Cat that makes it for him? Not sure. But let me take a quick flip through. Let's see if we can find Kraven's Last Hunt. There it is. Let's just take a little bit of a flip through, because if you haven't read Kraven's Last Hunt, you definitely should, and I definitely don't want to spoil it for you. But again, one of the darkest Spider-Man stories ever told. It's not often that Spider-Man goes super dark, but that's why it's so special when it happens, because you know things are going to get serious. And some of Spidey's best moments are in the darkness, in my opinion. But again, really, really good Kraven story in here too. So I just can't wait. Can't wait to get to that. But there we are, my friends. We've reached the end of the haul, and this is the part where I always turn it over to you. I hope you've been leaving comments. Let me know what you think of these books, if you've read any of them. if you're picking any of them up, if I should know anything about any of these books going into them, whatever you want, let's talk about it down in the comments. But thank you so much for joining me today, you guys. I hope to catch you in another video real soon, so you have yourself a great day. I've been Superfly Comics Guy, and until next time, you keep reading. Bye-bye, guys. Okay, time for another DC book, and what is widely known as Wonder Woman's best run, Wonder Woman by Greg Rucka. Ugh.